The wife regained her memory at the dump, and when she heard the husband and the mistress arguing about the inheritance, she pretended to be dead. But first, remember to subscribe to our channel so we can keep sharing incredible stories. Emily woke up to the sharp sting of cold metal under her hand and the acrid stench of decay. The dim light filtering through piles of garbage made her squint as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. Her head throbbed and her body felt heavy, as if weighed down by more than just fatigue. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she had no idea how she'd gotten there. Fragments of memory flickered in her mind like a sputtering candle. A name. Emily. Yes, she was Emily. She remembered her husband, Tom. And there was a car, a struggle, and then nothing. Her pulse quickened as she sat up slowly, the disjointed pieces of her life teasing her with half-formed images. Voices interrupted her thoughts. She froze, straining to listen. Do you realize what's at stake if someone finds out? A man's voice, angry and familiar. No one will find out, a woman hissed back. Emily's dead. The papers are signed, the money is ours. You just need to stop panicking. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Dead? Money? She crawled closer, carefully parting the trash for a better look. The voices belonged to Tom and another woman, a blonde she vaguely recognized. Lisa? Yes, Lisa, her husband's secretary. Her pulse raced as the pieces clicked into place. Emily pressed her hand to her mouth to stifle a cry. She wasn't supposed to be here. They thought she was dead, and they were plotting to take everything she had left. Hidden among the refuse, Emily fought the urge to reveal herself. Her body trembled, not from the cold, but from rage and betrayal. She knew she had to act, but what could she do in her weakened state? She glanced around and spotted a broken, discarded flip phone lying nearby. With trembling fingers, she grabbed it. There was still some charge left, but the signal was faint. She tucked the phone into her pocket and crept deeper into the shadows. She would need more than a fleeting memory and a dying phone to survive this. Emily's mind raced. She had to remember who she was and how to fight back. Emily crouched low, her breath shallow as she clutched the phone tightly. The screen flickered faintly, teasing her with a semblance of hope. She dared to glance through a gap in the trash piles. Tom and Lisa were still arguing, their voices a toxic mix of fear and greed. I told you to burn the documents, Tom, Lisa snapped, her face twisted with frustration. If anyone finds those, it's over for both of us. Tom waved her off dismissively. Relax. We're in the middle of nowhere. No one's coming here, and certainly not her. His voice dripped with condescension, but his restless pacing betrayed his unease. Emily's mind raced, the fragmented pieces of her memory slowly aligning. She remembered the night of the accident, or what she had thought was an accident. Tom had insisted on a late-night drive to clear their minds. The fight about the inheritance had escalated, and then Lisa had appeared. There was a struggle, the car swerved, and Emily was shoved into the darkness. Her fingers trembled over the phone's keypad. The signal bar flickered, but didn't vanish entirely. She dialed the only number she could remember, a close friend and lawyer, Rachel. The line crackled, but no connection was made. Emily cursed under her breath and glanced toward Tom and Lisa, whose argument had grown louder. You don't understand, Lisa said, her voice breaking slightly. She wasn't supposed to get that lawyer involved. Rachel's thorough. If she finds out Emily's not really dead... Stop panicking, Tom barked, grabbing Lisa's arm roughly. I've handled everything. Rachel doesn't know a thing. And Emily... He sneered, his tone venomous. Emily's a distant memory. Emily felt her anger boil over. She wanted to scream, to claw her way out of the filth and confront them, but she knew that anger wouldn't save her. Her survival hinged on her ability to stay hidden, think clearly, and wait for the right moment. Her fingers moved quickly, sending a single desperate text to Rachel. Help. Emily. Alive. She wasn't sure if it would go through, but it was her only option. Suddenly, Lisa's eyes darted toward the trash pile. What was that? Emily froze, her heart hammering in her chest. Tom turned toward her hiding spot, narrowing his eyes. Probably a rat, he muttered. I don't like this, Lisa said, taking a step back. Let's leave. We have what we need. There's no point in staying here any longer. Tom hesitated, scanning the area one last time. Emily held her breath, willing the darkness to shield her. Fine, Tom said, grabbing a folder from the ground. Let's go. As their footsteps faded into the distance, Emily exhaled shakily. She emerged cautiously from her hiding spot, her body aching from tension and the cold. The discarded phone in her pocket buzzed softly. She checked the screen. Her text had been delivered. For the first time since waking up, Emily felt a flicker of hope. But hope wasn't enough. She needed a plan, and she needed to act fast. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting long shadows across the dump as Emily stumbled toward the shed she had spotted earlier. Her mind raced, her body trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. The fragile phone buzzed in her pocket, and she quickly pulled it out, hoping for a reply from Rachel. Nothing. Her heart sank, but she couldn't afford to stop. As Emily pushed open the creaky shed door, she was greeted by a mess of discarded tools, rusted scraps, and torn tarps. She rifled through the chaos, looking for anything that could help her defend herself. An old wrench caught her eye, its metal still sturdy despite the rust creeping along its edges. She grabbed it and tucked it into her waistband. From the far end of the dump, faint voices echoed. "She was here," Tom growled. "I'm telling you, Lisa, something moved near us." Lisa's sharp reply cut through the air. "Then why didn't you check? What if someone saw us, Tom? What if it's Rachel?" Emily's chest tightened. They weren't leaving after all. They were coming back. Her mind darted from one idea to another. Should she stay hidden or try to escape? The shed was barely a refuge. Its broken walls provided little protection. She needed to find a way to stay ahead of them. Grabbing a tarp and tying it around her like a cloak, Emily slipped out of the shed's rear entrance and moved deeper into the labyrinth of trash. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes scanning the towering piles of refuse for any sign of movement. She had to stay ahead of them, but where could she go? The voices grew louder. "I see something," Tom said, his tone triumphant. "Over there." Emily's pulse skyrocketed. She bolted, weaving through the maze of junk, her feet slipping on loose debris. A jagged piece of metal cut into her arm, but she didn't stop. The adrenaline masked the pain. "Emily!" Tom shouted, his voice echoing. She froze at the sound of her name, her heart hammering against her ribs. The fear coursing through her veins was almost paralyzing, but it also fueled her resolve. They wouldn't get her. Not again. Emily spotted an old, deep pit ahead, partially hidden by fallen boards. A plan began to form in her mind. She grabbed a piece of wood and propped it precariously across the opening, making it look like a stable path. Then she positioned herself a few feet away, crouching low behind a pile of crates. Tom's heavy footsteps approached quickly, followed by Lisa's hurried ones. "Did you see her?" Lisa asked, panting. "She's close," Tom replied, scanning the area. His eyes landed on the pit. "She might have gone this way." "Tom, wait!" Lisa called out, but it was too late. Tom stepped onto the makeshift plank, and it collapsed beneath his weight. A startled yell tore from his throat as he fell into the pit, landing with a heavy thud. Lisa screamed, rushing to the edge. "Tom!" she cried, peering into the hole. Emily used the distraction to slip away, her heart pounding as she climbed over a hill of trash. She didn't stop until the voices faded completely. She spotted a distant road shimmering under the setting sun and began moving toward it. When she finally reached the edge of the dump, she collapsed to her knees, her body trembling. The phone buzzed in her pocket again, and she pulled it out. One new message. "I'm on my way. Hold tight. Rachel." Relief washed over her, but she knew this was far from over. Tom and Lisa wouldn't give up easily, and now they'd be out for blood. Emily clutched the wrench tighter. If they wanted a fight, she'd be ready. The headlights cut through the twilight as Rachel's car approached the desolate outskirts of the dump. Emily, bruised and shaking, emerged from the shadows, her makeshift tarp trailing behind her. Rachel jumped out of the car, her expression a mixture of shock and relief. "Emily!" Rachel ran to her, wrapping her in a firm embrace. "I thought I lost you." Emily clung to her friend for a brief moment before pulling back. "We don't have time," she said, her voice hoarse. "Tom and Lisa, he's here, and he knows I'm alive. They'll kill me if they catch me." Rachel's expression hardened. "Not on my watch. Get in the car. We'll figure this out." As Rachel helped Emily into the passenger seat, the gravity of the situation became clearer. Emily's injuries weren't just physical. Her face was gaunt, her movements sluggish, and the haunted look in her eyes spoke volumes about the ordeal she'd endured. Once inside, Rachel handed Emily a bottle of water and a first aid kit. "You're safe now. Start from the beginning," Rachel urged, her voice steady yet urgent. As the car sped toward the city, Emily recounted the nightmare. The night Tom lured her into the car, the betrayal, Lisa's involvement, and the argument she had overheard at the dump. Rachel listened intently, her knuckles white as she gripped the steering wheel. "They were burning documents," Emily said, her voice cracking. "Something about hiding evidence." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled folder she'd snatched during her escape. "I think this is what they didn't want anyone to see." Rachel glanced at the folder briefly before turning her eyes back to the road. "If this is what I think it is, it could be enough to take them down. We'll get this to the authorities." But Emily wasn't listening. Her attention snapped to the rearview mirror. "Rachel, we're being followed." Rachel's heart sank as she spotted the pair of headlights in the distance, drawing closer with every second. "That's them, isn't it?" "It's Tom. He won't stop," Emily whispered, clutching the folder tighter. Rachel's jaw tightened. "Hold on!" The car surged forward as Rachel pressed the gas pedal. The headlights behind them swerved erratically, matching their every move. Emily's pulse raced as the chase took them onto an empty stretch of highway. Tom's car rammed into their bumper, sending a violent jolt through Rachel's car. "They're trying to force us off the road!" Rachel yelled, fighting to keep control. Emily clung to the door handle, her mind racing. She couldn't let them win. She had come too far. "We have to get to the police station," she said, fumbling with the folder. Rachel nodded, taking the next sharp turn with a screech of tires. "There's one a few miles ahead. If we make it there, they won't dare try anything." The headlights behind them closed in, and another collision sent the car skidding dangerously close to the edge of the road. "Emily, hang on!" Rachel shouted, her arms straining against the wheel. Suddenly, Emily had an idea. "Stop the car." "What? Are you crazy?" Rachel exclaimed. "Just trust me. Stop the car." Emily insisted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Reluctantly, Rachel slammed on the brakes. The sudden stop forced Tom's car to veer sharply, his vehicle skidding off the road and crashing into a ditch. Rachel hit the accelerator again, putting distance between them and the wreck. "That'll slow them down, but not for long. We need to get to safety now." Minutes later, the glowing sign of the police station appeared on the horizon. Rachel drove straight to the entrance, where two officers ran out to assist. Emily clutched the incriminating folder as they stepped inside. "I have proof," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "Proof that my husband tried to kill me." The officers exchanged a look before one of them took the folder. Rachel placed a steadying hand on Emily's shoulder. "It's over, Emily. We've got them." But Emily's heart was far from calm. She knew Tom and Lisa weren't finished yet, and the fight wasn't truly over. The air inside the police station was cold and sterile, but for Emily, it felt like a sanctuary. She sat in the corner of the room, wrapped in a thin blanket provided by an officer, as Rachel argued with Detective Grace, the lead investigator. "This isn't just a domestic dispute," Rachel exclaimed, slamming her hand on the desk. "There's a murder attempt, fraud, and likely much more. Look at the documents she brought." Grace, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, flipped through the crumpled papers Emily had handed over. Her expression turned grim as she read. "These are signed financial records and forged legal documents. If these are real, they prove both premeditated fraud and attempted murder. But we'll need more than this to ensure they're convicted." Emily stood, her voice shaky but firm. "They think I'm dead. If I stay dead, they'll incriminate themselves. Let me help you catch them." Grace raised an eyebrow, leaning back in her chair. "You're suggesting we use you as bait?" Rachel's face blanched. "No way. She's already been through enough." Emily shook her head. "I've already lost everything. If this is what it takes to stop them, I'll do it." Grace studied Emily for a moment before nodding slowly. "We'll do it under controlled conditions. But we move quickly. People like your husband tend to bolt when they sense the walls closing in." The hope was to force Tom and Lisa into a panic, making them act rashly. Emily, meanwhile, stayed hidden in a safe house. The hours crawled by, each one more excruciating than the last. She replayed every moment of her betrayal in her mind, from the moment Tom lured her into the car to the arguments she overheard at the dump. Finally, the call came. Grace's voice was calm, but urgent. "We intercepted a conversation between Tom and Lisa. They're meeting tonight to fix the situation. We'll pick them up, but we need you nearby to confirm their identities when they arrive." Emily hesitated, her breath catching. "I'll be ready." He stepped out first, looking frantic, his face illuminated by the glow of a street lamp. Lisa followed, clutching a briefcase. Inside the van, Grace signaled for her team to hold position. "Let them talk," she whispered. Emily strained to hear through the audio feed. "This is your fault," Tom barked, pacing in circles. "We wouldn't be in this mess if you hadn't rushed things." Lisa snapped back, her voice trembling. "Don't blame me. You're the one who pushed her. I told you we should have waited until the will was finalized." Emily's stomach churned at the mention of her supposed death, but she forced herself to stay calm. Tom stopped pacing and grabbed Lisa by the arm. "It doesn't matter. We burn the rest of the documents, get the money, and disappear. No one will know." Lisa yanked her arm free, glaring at him. "You think it's that simple? What about Rachel? What about the police?" Tom's eyes darkened. "If they get in the way, we handle them too." Grace gave a subtle nod to her team. The officers swarmed out of their vehicles, surrounding Tom and Lisa before they could react. "Police, don't move!" Grace shouted, her gun trained on Tom. Tom froze, his hands in the air, while Lisa clutched the briefcase, trembling. "This is a mistake," she stammered. "We didn't do anything." Emily stepped out of the van, her heart pounding. Tom's face twisted in shock as he saw her. "You're supposed to be dead," he spat, his voice venomous. Emily stood tall, meeting his gaze with defiance. "You tried to kill me. You won't get another chance." As the officers cuffed Tom and Lisa, Grace turned to Emily. "We got everything we need. Their confessions are on tape and this briefcase," she said, opening it to reveal stacks of cash and incriminating documents. "Is the nail in the coffin." The betrayal had left scars she knew would take years to heal. As she walked out of the courthouse, Rachel joined her. "What now?" Rachel asked gently. Emily glanced at the horizon, her expression resolute. "Now I start over, and I make sure no one else goes through what I did."